call votes. So the first is a call to order. And I see Mike McNamara,
Here.
David Courier,
Here.
Debbie Oakes,
Here.
Elisa Magnata here. Judy Lindahl is here, not a voting member, but on the committee. And we have Elizabeth, Amanda, and Andrea Reed, our select board member liaison. So do we have any public comment? Anybody online or anybody that did go to town hall in the room?
No,
No hands raised.
there's nobody. Oh yeah, nobody here.
Okay, 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 good. If anybody reviewed the minutes and I could make a motion to move them, that would be great.
I'll move we accept the minutes of the meeting of October 14th.
All right, moved by Debbie and a second from Mike or David.
Second. Oh,
Great,
I got
both at
one.
the same time. I love it when that happens. We'll just call it Mike McNamara. Okay, roll call vote. Debbie,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
And Elisa, aye. Okay, and now we go to staff updates. Thank you for the memo. I feel like we just met. This meeting is really about town meeting, but just going through the protocol of our agenda. Is there anything top of mind from that memo you want to update us on?
No, the only thing I do just for the public benefit is there are upcoming town meeting warrant open houses where staff very, laid back staff will be available to answer questions on any of the warrant articles. So we have 3 coming up next week, Wednesday, November 12th from 4 to 6 at Town Hall. Thursday, November 13th from 12 to 1:30 at Snow Library, and Friday, November 14th in the morning at COA from 9 to 10:30.
Wait, what was the last one?
At the COA, Friday morning, November 14th at 9 a.m. And we wanted to do different locations, different times so that we can meet different.
I like the variety and the different locations.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. And so getting to the town meeting warrant, the big article for us to discuss is the Article 2, but don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about anything that, especially Andrea, if you think there's anything else important that we should weigh in on. But let's just start with Elizabeth, maybe for an update or like just so we can have the discussion on Article 2.
Sure. Thank you, Elisa. So I think we've presented the content of the article. I'm happy to, again, answer any questions that might be out there. From the perspective of your committee, we do think that this is an important economic development objective. As Amanda pointed out, the small business survey that this group conducted did identify housing and the availability of housing as a major barrier to successfully running and operating a small business. And the zoning tries to be responsive to that in that in a way, all of the units that are aimed at being produced under this code are aimed at being year-round, with significant portions being reserved for attainable and affordable, those making attainable and affordable incomes. In addition, again, from the economic development perspective, we're trying to also meet placemaking goals. This idea that we want to see downtown Orleans, that village core, continue to evolve and thrive as a walkable destination. So there are a series of design standards that any new development would have to comply with in order to help further that goal. So we have been doing a ton of outreach on this. Your companions over at Affordable Housing Trust took a unanimous vote to support the article on Tuesday. We talked to a group of merchants and got great feedback from them. We're hosting a session with young professionals next Thursday. over at the alley to talk about this, and we will be also at Orleans Citizens Forum earlier that night as well, answering questions. So
Great.
again, happy to answer any here, but that is where this article stands right now.
Yeah, and last meeting, we had talked about taking a vote, whether to support it or not. People wanted time to read it, discuss it. So I guess that's the first question is do people have questions for Elizabeth or top of mind thoughts or concerns that we should talk through?
I guess well,
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. No, you are off mute. Now you're muted.
boom.
No, okay,
Right.
there.
No one
boom.
in here. No one in here to jump on me. So it's all right. But yeah, no, I think I fully understand the initiative and the warrant article. I guess, one thing that came up last night in discussion, and we've talked about it a little bit as well, is trying to, take advantage of some of that lower area. I know there's going to be a lot of retail space and everything else, to look at, what opportunities we have to kind of maybe lure small businesses, not bagel shops, not restaurants, not bookstores, not earring stores or anything like that, like stuff that is gonna bring salaries here to this community. And has there been thought to like having like some sort of a tax advantage to like I said, lure companies here to set up shop? I know Wi-Fi is a big piece of that, or lack thereof, that we have currently with just communications and such, but I feel like that has to be a critical component to the success of this, because just trying to think that we're going to have all these businesses, small businesses, want to come here and take advantage of this space and have, I don't believe in it.
So one thing that I've talked to Amanda and Elizabeth a little bit about is once we get past this zoning is having another conversation in our committee and doing some research on how do we help the businesses that are here grow and be successful. And also, how do we attract new businesses? I think you're right. The zoning alone isn't going to solve that. And we don't need more of the same types of restaurants. We need not just restaurants, but businesses. We need diversity. And so I think that that's a fair point for us to layer onto this, but you can't do any of it if you don't have the regulations and the zoning in place. Like this is the building block. And the next step, I think you're right, is like we should take that up as something that we think about the overlay. I don't know if Elizabeth or Amanda, you want to, or Andrea want to jump in there. Go ahead.
I would like to jump in because I think, Mike, you're dead on. And if you go back to the original plan and the committee, one of the committee's tasks is to help prioritize how the town invests in that plan. And actually doing that spine, which we had priced out after COVID, but getting that, the broadband spine done for the community isn't that expensive. And again, if you guys, as you proceed with saying what your priorities are, you pass that on to the select board, then we can then make it happen. But we need the confirmation of what your priorities are based on the plan that we all accepted.
Yeah.
And I actually think more housing in the downtown makes it more attractive to develop out that spine. So
100%. You aggregate the cost, it makes it much more cost effective. Elizabeth, do you want to, and not just that, but business is going to follow population, right? It's going to make, sorry, did I take what you were going to say? Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all gearing on the idea that housing and economic development go together. If you don't have the availability for year-round housing, then, it's very hard to sustain and recruit a business. And the gap filler there is the broadband. And if I were your committee, I would absolutely be doing exactly what Andrea just said and shouting about broadband, because that Open Cape core, that Open Cape base goes right through downtown Orleans. Orleans. It should not be that hard to activate it and get folks connected. We did it in Hyannis with federal dollars. It was a big mess. There's probably a lot easier way to do it here. So, I mean, that is something that we should be able to easily capitalize on as a community. Just getting back to the zoning, like I said, it's only one tool. I mean, the mixed use component is more about making sure we do preserve that activity in that very central core. Again, only as a portion of anything that might get, again, redeveloped. I think probably the goal there is to try to encourage more top of the shop housing, preserving the existing spaces that are there, and at least allowing the opportunity for folks to build either above or behind with housing. But we do see that, I think there is a demand for our existing retailers for newer space. We just had a new space that came on board that was newly renovated on Main Street, and we saw existing tenants move over there from other portions of Main Street. So I do think having newer, more modern spaces to appeal to small businesses and restaurants is a good thing, and that some of our existing building infrastructure that's supporting our small businesses. Hopefully there's some incentive to upgrade it and make it more appealing. I'll also say those mixed use provisions that are in here we did not say it had to be retail or restaurant. We said it had to be an active use, encouraging a broad range of different business types that could go in there. So we definitely left the door open for innovation in how that space potentially gets used in the future.
And can I just jump one more comment about your plan? Mike, you're absolutely right that we need to attract year-round jobs, not seasonal jobs. And the select board we had begun to talk about business incubators and offsets for, an offsite business having a brick and mortar. Again, you guys are our think tank. So as you work through this and prioritize and put pressure on us to act, we needed you to sort through that plan and tell us which way to go first.
Okay, great. And Debbie, I'm going to go to you. And Judy, I just want, I don't know where you are in your off camera, but I do want to hear what the chamber's thinking when you have a minute. Debbie? Oh, you're on mute. I know. It's new computer. You're still on mute. There we go.
Oh my God. Anyway, I just want to give the plug. I think that this is really important, but it's part of a much bigger picture, and the zoning, opening up zoning is the first step, and we have to look at the entire town. And I'm giving the plug for the arts and culture focus to make Orleans a destination for others, and also make Orleans the kind of year-round community that typically would attract the remote year-round business worker, so that we get, the kind of businesses that are not retail necessarily or active use spaces, but office spaces, but bring in the people who can then avail themselves of those other facilities and other, economic opportunities for the town. So I don't want us to lose sight of that. It's all part of the mosaic that we have the opportunity now to intentionally develop. It's in our economic development plan. And the question is, are we going to do it, or are we just going to sit there and look at it and talk about it?
Yeah.
I say we do it.
Yeah. All right. So
Who's we?
Who's we?
Who's we? The landowner, whoever.
Yeah.
I don't know who
I
we
mean,
is.
I
don't
I'm
know
just
who
saying,
we is.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do have to be, when we're on these boards and committees, understand that, the execution of this is key, and ideas are great, but, it's a whole different ballgame when you try to execute through this zoning. And that's what people really need to understand.
Yeah.
As business owners.
So Dave, this zoning, so I'm curious, like, do you have concerns about this zoning, or are you hearing concerns in the community that
Yeah, I mean, I
Elizabeth?
just don't think, I don't think it does enough, but it's a
Okay.
step in the right direction. I mean,
Okay.
I also understand there's an old business saying is if you sit around and wait for every light to turn green, so I do think that the light directly in front of us is green. So, we'll move to the next stoplight
Yeah,
and that's my 2 cents. I'm
great.
not gonna get long-winded.
Now, do you have concerns, just a follow-up question, do you have concerns about the height or the density or any of the, what were some of the other issues that were, any issues when you went over the article or some of the bylaw changes? Do you have any concerns, or are you hearing concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I own a business in town. And everybody walks to their door and yells at me about all the changes you guys want to make. It's awesome.
Yeah, what are you
Um,
hearing?
No, I mean, you guys are just trying to change Orleans, and Orleans is, you're hearing all that. So,
Okay.
I think a very well someone describing it on town floor eloquently, I guess, would be helpful, I think,
Yeah.
for the cause. I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing the 35 feet's too tall. I don't think it's tall enough. It's the same thing. You got people that
Okay.
like it, people that don't,
Okay. Mike, I saw your, I know you want to go. Amanda, you want to jump in? Sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't see-
just to Dave's point, you can direct people to, speaking of, I mean, Elizabeth has a very eloquent presentation that she has been honing and practicing, so she will be presenting it on town meeting floor, but also we have a video of that presentation up on Town Meeting Central, and she and George just recorded a podcast episode then where they explain this very well as well. So just if people do come in and they don't have a full picture of it, you can definitely direct them to those resources. So they don't have to attend these in-person meetings, right? There's a lot of other resources for people to understand.
Cool.
And I think the bottom line is, like, this is about the people. This is zoning to bring people here or keep our locals here. This is year-round housing. This is the messaging that we're leaning into, at Housing Assistance, is talking about the vitality of the year-round community starts with housing. And you need to have access to year-round housing, not short-term or something that's going to flip to a seasonal, or unlikely to flip to a seasonal. Mike, your hand was up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had one other build. So I know some of the people that are involved in the various groups, whether it be police or fire, have concerns, just about some of the new housing that's already either in development or has been developed, right? So now if we're going to be adding on, all this incremental, housing for people to live here, have the, police and fire been heavily involved? Well, lights went off. The police and fire have been heavily involved in the discussions, because I know that there's obviously a shortage, not only in Orleans but across America right now in those two workforce groups. So I know that obviously the answer would be that this would provide the ability of people to live here. I guess an attainable option for them. But are there the people in line that want those jobs to come down here to be able to support it? Because with more people is going to be more issues and more challenges for those two departments.
Yeah. So question about, just to clarifying question before we let Elizabeth jump in and see where the police and fire have weighed in here. But so is that coming? I don't mean to push back and ask if that's a legitimate, but like, who is that coming from? Like somebody in a position of authority, or is it just grumblings? The reason I ask is we host, I don't know, 20,000+ more visitors and seasonal homeowners when we get into the season, and don't seem to have a problem. Police and fire don't seem to have a problem responding. So is this, and we're sure this zoning is not going to create that many more units and that many more people coming here, not even a third of that, nowhere near that. So I guess, is that is that a way, this is a similar tactic that people take of, I'm afraid of traffic, I'm afraid of the water depletion, I'm afraid of these things that aren't true? Or is this from somebody that there's truth in it, that the shifts are going uncovered, that things aren't happening? That's my question. I don't know if Andrea or Elizabeth can jump in and say,
I mean, it's
first
definitely,
out
it's coming from people that are
in the department.
employed and in these departments that already have concerns about it, not necessarily the leaders of each one of the groups, but and I know that when Eastham did their development, I don't know, maybe Elizabeth can speak to, Hyannis, but like when you do have I understand the influx of the summer, vacationers, and they have needs, but when you have a year-round population, just I just hear a lot of horror stories of things that go on within these departments and stuff. And it's like, if all of a sudden you're adding, more people to the mix, there's going to be more issues, more concerns. And, I know in Hyannis, it just seems like every day there's something going on down there that isn't in the best light. So I just want to try to,
but let's separate the issues, because I work in Hyannis. Those are very separate issues of things going on down in Hyannis. It's a very different socioeconomic group. It's a very different population. It's a very different, there are a lot of resources down there that and businesses, nonprofits like mine, social service agencies that bring in people from the whole region. So bifurcating the population increase from what's happening in the social service sector and to the most vulnerable population in our community, where that's where they go. That has nothing to do with police and fire staffing ratios or population increase. So just making sure we're not keeping us on, this is a population increase potential issue, not a social service where the most vulnerable are coming in for social services.
But it will be a transformation of an economic transformation of what exists today.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but let's
Economic
talk about
transformation,
who those people are.
yeah,
They're my daughter and Elisa's daughters.
by 3.
And
Yeah.
and I am just not going to listen to that. Those people coming in, like, come on.
No, those people coming in.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? That it's that we have to be careful. Population increase. This is year-round housing, so it has to be people that are going to be in a deed restricted or in a unit that is for being here year-round. That's not the same as what happens in Hyannis at all.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Also, I know that there was developments in Eastham too. I'm going off, like Dave says, people coming through my door and
Yeah,
saying these
no,
things
I
to me all the
appreciate it. This
time,
is
so
good.
I'd be a fool
Yeah.
not to bubble it up. So
I'm
it's
glad
not
you're bringing it
necessarily-
up.
It's not
It's
it's not necessarily my perspective, but it's what the overall perspective of the town is, whether it's Heights, bringing in, new people to the town. I understand. I know, the kids that are looking for housing and stuff like that here. And I think it's important, but I just want to make sure that we're prepared, because it is going to be a different economic group,
No, it's not. No, it's not. It is not a different economic group. That is a false narrative, number one. Number
Yes.
2, Elizabeth, at town meeting, I think you should ask everyone who was born here, raise your hand. Like there's no one. Dave Courier, I think, is the only one on this call.
I did
Who was
something.
born-
I did something with my life,
we-
right?
Yeah, Amanda. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. I think that we have to, I think that this is real. This is going to be a real thing that people are going to be afraid of. Who are those people? And they're coming in and this is happening. This is not that. It's a false narrative that happens all the time in our world. And quite honestly, we need people coming in. We need younger people to take jobs. We need people to stay here that went to high school here. That's who we're talking about. It's not you're not busing people from other communities in.
Exactly.
So,
And everybody is employed. So,
Could
you
I
can't
address a
even
couple
get
of-
lowest income housing without being employed and having a good credit score. So it's not that there are people coming from far and wide looking for a roof. Unfortunately, they do need that. And I'm not saying that wouldn't even be a good thing, but That's not what it is.
Can
Yeah.
I maybe try to reframe this a little bit? So in terms of police staffing or fire department staffing, we have been understaffed up to this year. And so in terms of both year round and summer, we hire, you see the guys on bikes, and we hire community outreach. But let's talk about benchmark population. And I think it's really important that our numbers have hovered around 6,000 for more than a decade. And what we're trying to do is really bring down the age. So instead of attracting people to retire and be here part-time, so police and fire are fully staffed for the first time in a really long time since COVID. And we have lost people who can afford much better housing in Western Massachusetts for those same year-round, absolutely important civil service jobs that we are trying to fill. We had a meeting last night. Was it last night? I know I've lost track of Wednesday night at the school about regionalization with the schools. And the issue was there was one applicant for a teaching position. Thank God it was a good applicant. But attracting people here and retaining them is a huge thing. And so what we're trying to do is shift that demographic so our median age isn't in the 60s anymore, but it's down in the 40s and 50s with the rest of the state. And so who's living here and who could afford, because the other piece we haven't talked about is rental units are to the tip of the iceberg. We need home ownership opportunities or else we don't keep people. And so, this is the first step. But again, you guys get to tease out what our next steps are. But
our 107 Main Street project that had 14 units, the people that moved in there have to have an income of between $60,000 and $80,000 a year, right? That they have to have that. There's no that's how much they have to make in order to qualify to move in there and to be able to stay there. We had over 400 qualified applicants. They were all from here. They were all from our region. So 60 to 80, those are your employees, right? You guys aren't paying people more than that. There's not going to be very many people that are making much more than 60 or 80,000. So that's who the is. And these people are, it's those 300 and whatever, 70, 84 that didn't make it into the lottery. That's who's getting in. That's who we're trying to, the zoning is for. And would that argument make sense on town meeting? Mike, going back to, I know it's not your opinion, you're bubbling it up. I'm wondering, as you're bubbling, what's the argument to counter it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think having the facts of what the median income is going to be for those people is a big piece of it, because I think just people are going to look at it as
affordable, like low income.
That's how they're looking at. That's how people are coming to me, and I'm sure to Dave. When it's just a conversation, around the restaurants and stuff.
Yep.
And then you got the height thing that has been. I have heard that to be a concern. People, aren't happy with the height of the underground mall buildings coming off the highway, and just seeing that it just gives a look and feel that they don't feel. I'm talking just, again, not saying my perspective or Dave's per se, just kind of what we do here. I think there's a bigger challenge, which ties into the regionalization, conversations and all these other things, is like, okay, so when the retirees retire, what's going to happen to all the 4 and 5 bedroom homes in this community, and who's going to fill those? And I think that the initiatives that I've talked about, whether it be the Wi-Fi and bringing businesses, here, are going to fill those homes with young families that, can afford to live here. Because there's an argument that I have all the time that the contractors and the firefighters they can't afford to live here. Okay, so this will maybe help fix that, but let's try to also, not just turn into a rental community, because as we've talked about before, I do believe that we have a crystal ball called Nantucket, and we can look at that and we can see how that's gone, and we can look 10 years ago and see where they were, and they're pretty damn close to where we are today. So, and it's a mess.
And Nantucket, it is very scary. They just voted to down a bylaw to restrict short-term rentals. The whole community, 75% overwhelming. What that says to me is that the whole community has bought into this notion that they are no longer year round. They no longer have an economy. They are a tourist destination, and it's in their self-interest, each individual self-interest, to have a short-term rental, have the ability to rent their house out for a short term, then invest in a year-round community. So you're absolutely right. Like this should be like, read the tea leaves. We have to be building dedicated year-round housing, or that's exactly where we're headed. We will all be incentivized because financially it'll be like, oh my God, my house is worth so much more if I let it, be rented short term than if I let it go on the open market, right? That changes your individual homeowners thinking, their own self-economics. So I think it's a good point. You brought up schools, and I'm wondering if anybody from the school committee is speaking on this and the need for kids in our schools. This is another predictor of where we're going when we're spending nearly $40,000 per student in our elementary schools. Pretty soon that's going to become a no vote on town meeting floor to keep supporting the schools. That's what's happened in Upper Cape, in P-Town and in the Lower Cape towns. That's what's happened in the islands. We have to make sure that we've got enough kids in there and vibrancy that we can sustain the school. So I wonder, have the school committee voted on this? Are they talking about this? Are they coming to town meeting to say yes to this? Do you know, Elizabeth?
I don't know the answer to that, Elisa, but certainly, we have had a number of conversations with them about the impact of new housing development on school enrollment. I mean, there's obviously been a ton of research on this statewide because we are not the only community out there who is trying to encourage new housing development. But to that point, I do think it's important to look at the experiences that we're having now. Like you said, 107 Main Street, Fair, both of those income restricted projects, that got 400 applicants, and half of those were local preference applicants. So half of those are people who are in here in our community today already that are just looking for housing that better responds to their living situation. So this idea that we're going to see this huge jump in population, while we might like the idea of retaining our young professionals and retaining our young people, recruitment is a whole nother issue. And I think really we are just catching up from decades of not building enough housing for people who are here already. I mean, so I think that is, but we'll keep an eye on those enrollment numbers. I know the first reporting we got back from Fair, there were 14 kids that were living in there just in the rent of the first 25 units. So, I mean, and the other thing I want to sort of respond to, and I'm so glad we're fleshing this out because it really does help sort of to have these conversations and hear what the concerns are in advance. So first of all, both police and fire chief came to multiple of our community meetings at town hall to learn about the proposal. Did have conversations with the police chief about making sure design standards incorporate sort of these environmental techniques to make his job easier, sort of crime prevention through environmental design techniques. I think we're accomplishing that. And certainly that is another layer of review as we continue to amend our zoning code that we can look at. But I know my first week on the job here, the police chief brought me into the station, talked about what a priority housing was, had me meet his staff that is, again, struggling to stay here and live here. So at least on that side, I think, I think he's very supportive. And just the last piece, I think one of the primary objectives here is to activate the market on housing and to start to move away from some of the projects that I think you're talking about, Mike, like the big Penrose project up in East Town, the big Penrose project that we had here. I mean, these are large multifamily projects that are funded through low-income housing tax credits and funded through millions of dollars of local investment. And most of them are primarily serving residents at 80% AMI or below. That is what we are trying to move away from doing as a community. And we are trying to convince property owners to help us solve this problem by providing a path that will allow them to viably build housing. And the restrictions that are on there, again, are year-round restrictions. The only affordability restriction is 10%. And we know we have to sort of stay at that 10%. We don't want to fall behind because then we lose some of our sort of autonomy and local control. But the rest of the restrictions are 200% AMI restrictions, and that's almost $200,000. So I'm not even sure the market could bear those rents right now. But and that's just to, again, make sure that we are having housing for professionals in our community that, is not going to escalate in cost over time. But, I think the zoning is actually in direct response to what you're talking about, which is, again, sort of increasing diversity of housing type and income availability in the market, and not just doing big blocky multifamily low-income housing tax credit projects, which, again, we need. I'm not saying we don't need them, but I'm saying we've done a really, really good job in Orleans committing to that. This is an evolution in terms of trying to expand on that.
Trying to fill in the middle. We've got the right number of the lower income, taking care of the most vulnerable. We obviously have very high income housing, for waterfront, beautiful housing, and it's the middle part. Rosalind, I see you jumped on. Thank you for joining us. I do want to ask Judy to weigh in, and then I'll bring you in, Debbie, in 1 second.
Okay.
Listening to this conversation, they're really difficult and hard conversations to have. And this is what everyone's talking about. And you don't want to be seen as not in my backyard. You got to sort of have not even 20/20 X-ray vision looking to the future to see how we're going to do this. The vote on Nantucket was a topic of conversation at a lunch that I had this week with them voting that down. So we're asking the right questions. We're speaking aloud the parts that no one really wants to talk about, which is interesting. I still think we have a lot of work to do. I think we have a lot of work to do as far as, I deal with a rumor mill on Main Street, and that's all I'm doing is chasing down rumors and this rent is too high. They chased him out of here. And I was like, none of this is true. None of it's true. So
We have 2 points.
Yeah. Are there concerns that the staff should know about, or that we should have prepared to argue at town meeting? I guess it's like Mike is raising, which is excellent. Right. Those people, height, what are you hearing from your business community are issues that we should be concerned about or prepared to talk about?
It's purely the uncertainty right now.
Yeah. Unknown.
It's the unknown, the uncertainty. Who bought this building? Who bought this property? What is my lease going to look like? It's a lot of uncertainty. And I'm not sure that this piece is registering to business owners right now, because if you're leasing somewhere in Orleans, that's what you're worried about. Is my owner going to sell the property? Has the property already been bought? What are the plans? And there's really no transparency right now, which is hard because they're private owners, right? They don't need to be transparent.
Right.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But when the rumor mill goes, it's kind of scary because you're trying to calm people's fears of something that's not even could be unrealistic anyway. They could be just thinking the worst, and you're trying to grab them back and go, okay, We just need to take one step at a time. So I love being a part of this community and looking forward at these things, but they're legitimate excuses, not excuses. They're legitimate items that are on the minds of not only residents and business owners, but the property owners are looking and going, why are you mad at me? I'm just buying a piece of property that I want to improve for the town of Orleans. It's sort of, we're on a merry-go-round right now, and I'm not sure how I jump off yet.
Yeah. Has your board taken a vote on this?
My board will not take a vote on any town meeting warrants because we are membership driven and we do not want to appear on one side or the other, because everyone does have valid points on one side or the other, and we do need to listen to them. So until our membership tells the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors that they need to call a vote, I don't know that you'll see one happen.
Okay. But go back, what you're saying, there are legitimate concerns. What are the legitimate concerns against?
Not against. There are legitimate concerns about the
uncertainty and
about the
Got it.
uncertainty. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Really
Debbie.
all it is.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Debbie?
I just wanted to, before we were talking about clarifications in terms of addressing the question, especially of who's going to be living in these apartments, which are, that's what we're primarily talking about. I think it's rentals. And one is that, we talked about the income of the people working there. The other side is the amount of rent that people are paying. I know I, for one, was really shocked when I saw even under the affordable, capital A affordable housing, the rent numbers to an old fart like me are really high. and they're like more than what a mortgage used to be considered normal mortgage prices. So, we're not talking about $500 a month rent at all that people have to maintain. The other thing is that I've heard people having concerns. To be honest, I don't even understand it exactly, but that I think they're thinking in terms of ideas from gentrification. Maybe that's where it comes from, the idea that if these new developments happen, that their property taxes are going to increase because there'll be, I don't know why, because their property will have a higher value. And that's actually not the way property taxes work. And I think that clarification
Is
put out there,
important.
people don't understand it. And I had a mathematician explain it to me, and oh my God, I don't get it. Just tell me bottom line. It doesn't affect how much money you are going to end up paying. In fact, it's going to potentially, theoretically, as much reduce your property tax.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are afraid of that and they're going to vote against this because of that, they're taking a position that just isn't real and they don't understand it. The other thing is that the whole point, I know we all say this, everybody's always afraid of change. In the years I've lived here, which is a lot at this point, there's been a lot of change and not for the better. And if you don't do anything to address the why it's not getting better, then what's the point? I mean, things are just
Become Nantucket.
deteriorate. Well, you'll have to commit to becoming Nantucket.
Yeah.
And when you do
Right.
that, the downtown is going to have to be cleaned up big time because,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
not nice.
Right.
We pretend it's nice. It's not nice.
No, it's not. And it is a good, we are kind of at a fork in the road, right?
Right.
We're either going to have to make the investment with our zoning, not our taxpayer dollars, to
Right.
build the right kind of housing to attract people, retain the people that are year round, that can work in the year round jobs, be in the schools, work at the schools, firefighters, my colleagues that work with me at Housing Assistance, or we should double down into, we are going to be a second home community and
Right.
close the schools, forget
Yeah.
about it. We're not going to invest in the year-round community. We are kind of at that Y in the road.
Yes,
For
and
sure.
we are.
We are.
I
Rosalind?
just want to say one
Sorry.
other thing really briefly, that was part of putting together a presentation that we did at the Snow Library about the history of Orleans, which was really, I mean, I know it, we all know it. It wasn't even new photographs, but I immersed myself in old photographs, starting with like the late 1800s to early 1900s, which I kind of picked as the modern era because it had all the components that we have today. And Orleans was made up of people who were here to live their lives, who were part of the world, who built businesses, who tried different industries. And by the way, settled primarily in the village center, in exactly where we are most settled and most densely settled, along the spine between the water. We're at the high point between the waters. And we're really just looking to continue that. Anyway,
I love that because every town on the Cape does have a different vibe and a different flavor. And that is the culture of our town and has been for the 20 plus years that I've lived here. And Dave and can speak to that. He was born here, right? But it is different than other towns. And so we are at this place of like, are we going to stay this town that's our value, or are we going to switch into something else that's no longer our value? And I think that being very intentional about that is what this zoning gives us the opportunity to decide on. Rosalind, thank you.
Hey guys, apologies for being late, and I have to drop at 10 because I'm very, very tight this morning. So if you guys want to do a vote, we need to do it before then. Otherwise, I got to exit out. I don't have a lot more to say. I mean, I'm 100% supportive of this. Zoning doing nothing is not an option. We can talk about this until we're blue in the face. We're just kind of going around the merry-go-round because all of these objections are the ones we've heard in every single town, Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, everywhere. Workforce housing is important. If you want, your elderly people to get healthcare, if you want to get great service in restaurants, you need to have place to put people. If you want our teachers to thrive, if you want our policemen to thrive and our firemen to thrive, you need to have good housing and availability and accessibility for housing. So I don't have a lot more to say. I've been for this for a very long time. So
yeah, very cool. Thank you for jumping on, we wanted to have a discussion so that Elizabeth and Amanda could kind of hear what Dave and Mike are hearing so we can get ready for town meeting arguments. You bring up the vote. Is this something that the committee wants to, is there anything else anybody wants to say, first of all? And then lastly, to Rosalind's point, very succinct, do we want to make a vote that on town meeting floor, Elizabeth can say, economic development voted this way, or one of us stand up and say that? Yes. Or Andrea stands up as our select board liaison, whomever it is. I don't know.
We were created for this purpose. For us to be silent, I think is then what is our purpose? Right. So okay. This is exactly. Make a motion? I make a motion to approve.
To support
the vote on the zoning vote.
Yep. So Article 2, make a motion to fully support Article 2 downtown housing overlay district at town meeting.
That's the one.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. So now we have to do a roll call vote. Let me get okay. Mike McNamara. Dave Courier.
Aye.
Okay. Debbie Oakes.
Aye.
Rosalind Acosta.
Yes.
Elisa Magnotta. Yes. And great. All right. So do we want to have a voice on town meeting floor? That's my next question for you all. I'm going to say something as a resident and as housing assistants, and housing assistants is writing an op-ed or a letter to the editor. We've got a get out the vote kind of effort to like make sure young people know about this and are connecting with Amanda and Elizabeth on making sure that they have access to the information. So I'm going to speak professionally and personally. I'm happy to also throw in economic development, but it could be another voice that somebody else steps up and represents economic development. I'd be fine with that. Or if it's Andrea or somebody else wants to, Debbie is planning board, or Rosalind, or I don't know, Mike or David.
Andrea, strategically, what are your thoughts on that? Because so many people are going to be talking away. So what do you think?
We have other groups that are voting to support. this warrant and other warrants, it makes, I think on town meeting floor, because staff is presenting this year, I think it's much stronger to stand up and say your committee voted unanimously because it's neighbor to neighbor
Yeah.
that way. So I would beg you to have somebody stand up and speak for the group.
And is it better for the select board liaison to do that?
I
Or
don't think so.
okay,
Because
so
they've heard it. They've heard us already advocating for it. I think we need
Okay.
to spread the depth of
Who's
support.
who's our vice chair?
No,
Well,
but
you know what?
But Alyssa, I think you're already up there. I
Yeah.
think you're already up there, and just wear 3 hats.
Okay.
And say that you're up there wearing 3 hats. It's sort of like a 3-legged stool, personal, professional, the EDC. Do you think that's okay, Andrea?
No, I think that we,
No.
because Alyssa represents because of her job,
Right.
Okay.
represents a different point of view. And I think it's much more powerful if somebody else stands up with her.
We don't currently have a vice chair.
Yeah.
I honestly think it would be
Rosalind
powerful.
would-
I can't, I can't, I'm getting off a plane at 5 p.m. And I'm not gonna make it. I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Sure.
I'm gonna try my darndest, but I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Mike or Dave, I think it would be pretty impactful coming from you guys. Everyone knows you. You mean something in the
And
community.
all you even have to say, if you don't want to say more, is that the committee voted unanimously.
That's right. That's it. It's that simple.
That's all.
Well, okay, I can talk to Dave and Mike offline, and I mean, I'm happy to go up with someone. Like, I'm going to say something, the person could be with me, and then we just pivot to economic development, so it can be kind of a united. I haven't decided if I'm going to speak how housing assistance is going to weigh in, right? So that I haven't decided that. So me personally, I'm going to speak. But anyways, we can strategize offline on that.
And this is on the 17th, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, God knows if I'll even be able to get back.
Right. Well, maybe you won't even be able to
Go.
go. You'll just stay here
It's
forever.
already been canceled and rescheduled already.
Okay.
But
All right. So it's now 10, and I know you have to go, but thank you for jumping on. Are there any other warrant articles, Andrea or Elizabeth, that you want us to talk about before we close the meeting?
Well, I of course am very concerned about how the special stretch code will be received, especially with all the news around electricity prices rising. So I don't know if we'll end up, I don't know what's going to happen to that article, but I think for economic development, and it may not be appropriate, the timing may be wrong, just in terms of even how much time you have for this meeting, but to talk about the cost of waiting for the state to make these, to make this like wastewater, to make these codes law versus the amount of support. Sorry about that. That's my alarm to leave, to make the support. There's a false narrative that's circulating now that I find offensive, which is that because the town would get up to $1 million in matching funds every 3 years to support the municipal adaptation of our buildings or help with new construction, that the town is at the cost of building affordable housing, pushing this forward. And at some point, that false narrative needs to be addressed, but this may not be the meeting to tackle it. I'm sensitive to everybody's schedule. So I just want to make you aware that that false narrative, it's like those people.
Well, but it is a true statement to say that it increases our construction costs and the development costs 100%. And there is not guaranteed money. You know, people like to point to 107 as the poster child. I had to commit to, housing assistance had to commit to the construction and the higher cost of construction at the beginning. We had to carry that cost all the way through, not knowing until the very end when it was certified if we would ever even be eligible. We were eligible, but if it qualified for any kind of help. So that is where it's not a false narrative. It does increase the cost, and there isn't going to be enough subsidy. So I do think I want to be I want us to be reaching for that, but I also want us to be very realistic that putting people on electricity and making them pay more for their utilities is not a good thing, because we can't guarantee you can do solar panels. So why are we doing it? Right? Why aren't we investing in
Yeah.
transportation, where that has a bigger impact on our carbon footprint than the little tiny incremental change you're going to get from new construction? So I'm staying silent on it because I know it's important to people. Housing assistance is just to tell, I'm going to the meeting just to give the facts of like what the numbers are. I know it's important to some people. I just don't, we have a dirty grid we're sending people to on the electric. Like, why are we fighting for this?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing why. Maybe somebody else can explain why.
Well, and again, I just want to throw in the piece there that absolutely, yes, that factually, that is absolutely correct. And we're in a messy, messy time in terms of if we keep using dirty fuels, whether
Yeah.
they're electric or not, we're going to end up paying the same kinds of costs we're paying now. So it's kind of like the housing question or the pivoting that we were just talking about. We're at a
Exactly.
crossroads, and how do we adapt to those choices? And again, whether this is the time or this forces, we are in discussions with Eversource, and the state is on the capacity issues. AI
Exactly.
is a huge suck up. And why, Alyssa, you have an excellent point about, Elisa, why are we pointing towards housing versus transportation? There was another pushback that retrofitting all of our homes currently would make a much bigger impact.
100%.
So these are all wonderful questions.
Yeah.
And it's doable.
The choice that we have, and Cape Light Compact, we're all paying for it anyway. Not
Yep.
all of us are
Yep.
taking advantage, or leasing our homes for solar rather than building. All of that is true. The
Yep.
choice we have right now is on this warrant, right? And so again, so is it the cost of doing nothing, or is it a cost of not now, because we need more evidence that electric, we've already lived this a generation
Yeah.
ago. We all went electric, and
A generation 10 years ago.
well, it was also in the 90s. I mean, anyway, it's happened. So I don't have any good answers for
Yeah,
you,
no.
but
Yeah.
it's an issue that,
And it is unfortunate to be pitting housing against climate. Like we should be thinking about the two together. How do we make housing more efficient? How do we make sure that that housing construction is reducing its carbon footprint? And we've really done that. I mean, our buildings are the code that we're at is really, very energy efficient, especially compared to the way it used to be. So, Debbie, your hand is still up. Do you
Oh,
want to say something?
no, I didn't. I just didn't take it
Okay.
down.
but
So we're gonna-
to your point, Elisa, I don't think this stretch code really has to do with efficiency, because we are very efficient, and maybe those demands will keep changing. This code is really about the use of fossil fuel. And so if as a community, we're not ready to make that leap, that's for us to decide. But
Yeah.
the special stretch code is about the sources of fuel in construction, not so much about efficiency.
Yeah, that's good point. Yeah. Okay. Any other warrant articles? I don't have any other warrant articles that I'm concerned about or seeing. Elizabeth, do you have anything else you want us to weigh in on?
I think the other ones have a less direct connection. I mean, I think the housing ones collectively are important to making sure we have a policy environment that supports year-round housing here. But I think the zoning and the zoning is probably the most important one to focus on.
I do love the Eldridge Park renovation project.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to like building a year-round community
does.
where we
It's a great
have,
pick.
yeah, a place to live and thrive and play. So I'm excited about that one.
Me too.
Okay,
Nice.
so sorry, go ahead. I cut you off, Elizabeth. Sorry.
Nope,
No.
I didn't. It's a nice project, and I'm really glad to see it
Yeah.
going forward. And I do think it supports that narrative that we are looking to invest in a community into one that is year round and not just a retirement place to
Exactly.
retire.
Okay, any other new business? Next meeting is December 9th in person. We'll be there with you, Mike and Debbie. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Courier. Second.
So I'm good at.
I'm gonna say Debbie seconding,
I
okay, and then,
second.
thank you.
But it's in here.
We're gonna do a roll call vote. Mike
Oh, man.
McNamara.
Aye.
Okay, Dave Courier.
Aye.
That yawn is a yes, and Debbie,
Aye.
yep, and Elisa, aye. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. I figured out how